No knife company out there does budget blades designed by some of the finest and most famous custom knife makers in the business, quite like CRKT. And we've got a bunch of their new 2025 releases on the table in front of me right now. So let's check them out. Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the KnifeCenter. Welcome to the first big new knife drop of 2025 from none other than CRKT. We're going to start off with, well, I mentioned budget knives earlier, but CRKT has, in the last couple of years, been introducing some higher end pieces, including some made in America, made in the USA, high end pieces. We're going to start with one of those and just kind of go through what we've got. And it is something that just, let's see, 2 years ago even, you would be supremely surprised to hear that CRKT is making an automatic knife. And they've done a few, and here is the latest. It is the Twist Tighe, designed, of course, by none other than Brian Tighe himself. It is a scaled down version of some of his custom autos. They are coming in about $300 right now, made in the USA, I believe. Yep. Had to check the notes there. These are made for CRKT by Hogue Knives, and that whole partnership between Hogue and CRKT, I think, is just a great match. Hogue has got the engineering prowess, CRKT knows how to market stuff. It's a great partnership. This version I like. I like the green and black carbon fiber, but there's also a pink and black option. Both of those have the double-edged Magna Cut blade steel here with a stone-washed finish. You can also get just a black marbled carbon fiber with a black coated blade if you like. All of them have essentially look the same from the front side. It's the clip side or the reverse side that actually has the carbon fiber, but the front is milled aluminum. The size, it's a good EDC auto. I mean, it does have a double edge. That's not necessarily the most EDC friendly grind, but the size itself works very well for taking with you every day. It's not too big or bulky. You've got a manageable blade length, 2.65 inches here. Action, as you can see, nice and crisp, both on the in and on the out. Deep carry for that pocket clip as well, keeping it nice and tucked away until you need it. It's built like a Hogue. It's just got the CRKT name on it. There ain't nothing wrong with that whatsoever, if I say so myself. Check them out, the new Twist Tighe. Next up, we have the Lucas Burnley designed Squid. It's been a long-running, successful series for the company, and the new for 2025 versions have transitioned to button lock mechanisms. We've both got the standard Squid here with a 2¼ inch blade, and the Squid XM, the extra medium, if you will, with its 3-inch blade. These have got D2 steel, coming in about $54 for the standard and about $60 for the XM. I almost said full size, but XM, extra medium. Either one of which comes in a couple different flavors. Here's the two D2 bladed standard Squids. You've got black G10 and this nice blue micarta here. I hesitate to say denim micarta because it's a bit like too blue for that sort of thing, but it's a very good blue. It's got a nice smooth texture on the front. You can see a bit of that canvas weave on the micarta, which is nice. Folded over pocket clip here, not quite deep carry and not reversible in this case. We do have dual thumb studs, which work nicely for bringing that blade to bear. Classic Squid shape at this point, hollow grind on the blades. You can also do that button lock thing where you hold the button in, flick it in and out. The smaller ones need a little bit more wrist action than the extra mediums do. But there you go, nice small one. We've also got this pink-handled version, ups it to a Sandvik 14C28N blade steel. So if you want a stainless option rather than the semi-stainless D2, you've got that option here with the pink G10. And this is a few bucks more. This is coming in at that $60 point. So this one's really nice. Maybe it's the coating on this one, making it need a little more action. The uncoated blade, the stonewash finish here is working quite nicely indeed. But yeah, great little size and shape. It's about a 3-finger grip for me and my slightly larger than average hands, but it's that kind of shape that works for all different kinds of hand sizes for sure. Two flavors of the XM with D2 steel. We've got a slate gray or a slate blue G10 right here with a black coating. D2 steel again on these, hollow grind. I like the green micarta one though. That's my favorite of all of these bunches. You can also get a Sandvik steel on the XM. That comes with the purple G10, and the price on this one is again just a couple bucks more. Checking my notes, about $68 for this one versus the $60 for the D2. But the XM especially, I'm really happy with. I think it's a great EDC size and shape. It's not too big, not too small. It's got enough of a handle there to give you a big grip and enough blade to get some real work done without being too big and bulky in your pocket. Great EDC. Next up, also from Lucas Burnley, we've got a new version of the Ibis and a less expensive version of the Ibis than what has previously been available. 54 bucks for this. You get black G10 and a stone-washed D2 blade in this case. Very distinctive blade shape for the Ibis. Just over 3 inches long, so it's not, doesn't fall under that 3-inch length if that's an important one for you. This is not quite going to cut it, but it's a very cool, very effective blade shape. Kind of is going to behave a little bit like a Wharncliffe in terms of how you use the tip, especially on the surface of things. If you're cutting, on a cutting board or on a floor, anything like that, very useful blade shape for sure. Steel colored accent here at the back. I believe that is aluminum. Inset liner lock, ball bearings for the action here. This is not an assisted opening knife. You just got that modern, crisp ball bearing action when you go to open it. Flipper tab or thumb studs, whichever you prefer. Hey Thomas, do you want to see another Lucas Burnley knife?
We're going to.
Yes, we are. Here it is, the Tuna Compact. This is a premium version of the Tuna Compact, as opposed to some of the D2 bladed versions that have existed previously. And here we've got S35 VN for the blade steel. So particle metallurgy, advanced stuff, very good edge retention, decently tough, and stainless, of course, as well. Blade 2 3/4 inches long with this distinctive tuna blade shape here, and aluminum for the, titanium for the handles with a topaz finish is what they're calling it right here. We've got a frame lock for the security on this knife, and the lockup is supremely solid. And we've got ball bearings in the pivot, so when you go to open it, it'll ride out quite nicely. Not the strongest detent that I've felt, but still quite usable. And a very compact knife here that gives you a pretty large blade, or a pretty, large might not be the right word, but a substantial feeling blade here. Plenty to work with, a little bit of extra thickness there for some durability. So if you like a very strong knife in a small package, the Tuna Compact is definitely worth a look. Right-hand bias, of course, thanks to the frame lock and the pocket clip here, comes with this standoff, and then you've got the bent metal style of clip there, which is a little bit springier, a little bit nicer to use sometimes than some chunkier clips. So there you go. There's also going to be another version of the Tuna Compact that I don't have on the table in front of me right now. Less expensive than this one. Teal G10 with a stainless steel frame lock, 14C28N blade. That's going to run about $68. This version right here, the more premium option, coming in $225. Next up, we've got a new TJ Schwartz design. This is the Straight, a really cool, small, angular folder. Bunch of straight lines on it, actually. Makes sense for the name, huh? Price on this is about $54. We've got a D2 blade, 2.6 inches on it. It is very thin, very slicey with a nice acute tip. A little bit of a drop to the edge there, angling up. So this is another one that's going to work really well if you're cutting things on a surface like this. You can engage the tip of that knife and still have plenty of room for your fingers to not knock into whatever surface you're cutting. This is kind of like a smallified food prep shape. Obviously with 2.6 inches, you're not going to be doing much food prep apart from using it as a paring knife perhaps, but it's got that kind of vibe anyway. But I think that's going to make it a really nice box cutter and a really nice craft knife as well. Especially with the D2, if you're cutting a lot of really abrasive stuff, the large hard carbides that give D2 its edge retention are going to hang on well and respond or hold up well to really aggressive materials like cardboard and stuff like that. Stainless steel for the frame lock, G10 for the front handle. The frame lock itself on the thinner side, but lockup, again, super tight, super nice. Action is going to be more deliberate on this one. This feels like washers in the pivot as opposed to ball bearings. So You can get it to flick, but it's not at its happiest when it is doing that. Really nice closed profile though, check that out. Nice and compact, sits very thin in the pocket, and gives you a really cool slicey blade to work with when you're ready to do some work. Next up, we've got a couple of small fixed blades, one of which especially I think makes a really nice utility style blade. But this is called the HangTi, like T-I, not T-I-G-H, like Brian Tie, because these are Richard Rogers designs. Let me see if I can hold these so you can actually see them. Oh, my big finger's getting in the way. These are running about 44 bucks, and they are all titanium. So no steel in this. What you get because of that is an incredibly lightweight handle material. Not necessarily an edge retention type of champ here, but super, super lightweight and can be made super sharp at the same time. This Wharncliffe style blade here, it's actually more, we say Wharncliffe on the website, but it's really a Kiridashi type profile and a true Kiridashi type profile. It's chisel ground, so it's flat on the back. It's not double edged, which means this is a great little craft knife, especially if you need to score a line very precisely against a metal straight edge. That'll go right up against it and work really nicely for that sort of thing. It's not gonna wander off, which is cool. And the blue finish I think is really sweet too. Just over 1 inch on the blade length there. Comes with a little Kydex guy to hold it securely. Belt attachment, come on. It's a little pocket knife or a neck knife. That's what you're gonna be using this for. At least that's what I would be using this for. I'm not worried about a belt attachment for this. If you are, hey, fair enough. The other version we have is a small drop point, about 1.7 inches in length, so a fair bit more sharpened edge than the Kiridashi profile, but just an everyday utility guy. This is double beveled or double ground with a dual bevel at the edge, not a chisel grind like on the Kiridashi, so a bit more general purpose feeling as a result. But super, super lightweight. I mean, what is the figure here? 0.4 of an ounce for this one. So there you go. All right, next up, coming in about $68, we have a new version of the Matthew Lurch designed LCK. Originally, this was part of the Ruger lineup that CRKT made before being brought over to the brand proper. And this is a new version, like I just said. 3.4 inches on the blade, Sandvik 14C 28. Really nice stuff. I haven't really talked about that steel yet. They're using that and D2 a lot on their more affordable stuff. D2 holds an edge really well, but it's only semi-stainless and it is not particularly tough in terms of, you know, bending and all of that sort of thing. 14C 28N is a stainless steel, holds an edge quite well, probably not as long as the D2, but it is tougher than the D2. And especially on a knife like this with a very acute tip where you might not want that tip to snap off. I know I wouldn't. That extra toughness is gonna be a nice thing for sure. Hollow grind on this narrow tapering drop point profile, G10 handles. They're calling them blue, which satisfies me a lot because other companies might call this gray, and I've always liked it, but it's kind of blue. So I'm glad they're calling it blue. 3.4 inches on the blade, as mentioned. It is a narrow knife in the pocket, as you can see. You've got a folded over clip there on one side. Flips nicely thanks to the ball bearings, and yet you have a pretty full-sized blade there. It's, you know, 3.5 is kind of a medium-sized knife. I don't consider it necessarily a large knife, but 3.5 is a solidly medium or full-sized knife as far as I'm concerned. So you've got a fair bit of, you know, reach for a very easy or a very small pocket footprint. The LCK. All right, this next knife is the biggest folder on the table and actually probably the biggest news on the table. And this is definitely a big knife. The M16, long-running classic in CRKT's lineup. It is the knife that introduced the flipper tab, as you can see on this LCK, to the production knife world. It is the knife that gets the credit for making this a thing. But the new versions of the M16 no longer have this. Instead, we're seeing their first crossbar lock show up in the lineup. 3 sizes of the M16 are going to be available right now. I only have this one on the table. This is the largest one, the 14XD, with a nearly 4-inch D2 blade, tanto with partial serrations, as you can see, VEF serrations, in fact, giving you better pull ripping type of motions. And the price on this is coming in at $85, which is really nice. Injection molded handle, big old blade though, as you can see. The thumb studs here still act as the blade stop here at the top end, which is pretty nice. And the action is exactly what you would hope it to be. We've got ball bearings in the pivot, letting it flow quite freely. That feels really good. That is a really nice feeling big knife, the D2 there. Great choice for holding an edge, as mentioned. Deep carry pocket clip, or almost deep carry, I should say, and it is reversible, which is nice. So this maintains full utility for left-handed users as well, just the same as you would get in other people's non-lefties dominant hand, which would be the right hand for folks like myself. So there's two other versions, the O2X. You're gonna get a D2 stonewashed tanto blade, just over 3 inches long. That's gonna be about $68. Also a black spear point bladed version, about 3.6 inches on that one. That's the O3XK, and that's gonna come in about $75, all with the same crossbar lock mechanism. And really, I think CRKT did do a good job on this with working with their manufacturing partners to get a well-tuned crossbar lock. So even though Kit Carson, who designed the M16 and brought the flipper tab to bear, even though it's losing a bit of its, one of the pieces of its identity, I think he'd be all right with it, because I think this is really well done. Next up, we've got new Provokes. They're kinematic karambits. I like the alliteration there, it's actually pretty good. We've got two new aluminum framed versions. These are coming in at $210 right now. We've got the green and the gunmetal variety. The gunmetal, I think, might be my favorite finish yet. It's gray, but it's not boring. It's not like a flat gray. As you can see, there's a little bit of shimmer and sheen on some of the pieces. The reflectivity makes it a little more interesting. If you're unfamiliar with the kinematic action, it's these two arms right here, which when held like a typical karambit with your index finger through the ring there, push on this nub here at the back, or this joint I should say, right at the back, spin around here, and it opens the blade. That was a weak open. Come on, David, you're better than that. There you go. Pushes the blade out. The nice thing about this is it is very fast when you get it out of your pocket. You simply pull. There are aftermarket sheaths available if you wish, or you use the press out pocket clip right there. Finger in, out, blade out, ready to go. And if one of these arms were to fail, the knife is not really going to fold closed towards your fingers because of the way it comes out either, which is quite nice. D2 steel for the edge retention. It is chisel ground, but double beveled, so it's technically not chisel ground, but it's flat beveled on the back. That allows the blade to sit real flush up against the frame, so it's not going to get loose and snip other things if you're carrying it in your pocket. But action, it's always been just super, super fun. For a more affordable variety, they've got some Grivory handled versions. The price on those, pardon me, is $120. And we've got this new ivory and seafoam versions right here. Blade length on these is about 2.5, if you're wondering, and 41/16 steel on this version, or these Grivory versions right here, so a stainless option. Really nice. So takes a little bit of the weight down in the process, in addition to, of course, the cost being brought lower. Stone washed finish on these options right here, but otherwise same specs, same everything else as the aluminum versions. Now, if you like that kinematic action, but the karambit style hawkbill blade is not so great for you everyday carry wise, if that doesn't strike you as something that you would find useful, the Provoke EDC has a new variant now as well. These are coming in about $175 right now. 2.5-inch D2 blade, much more simple, conventional blade shape, and something that's going to be, for most folks, probably a bit more useful as an everyday carry type of proposition. There's still plenty of handle length there, in my opinion. My slightly larger than average hands, again, have plenty of length there. The lock is actually a little bit easier to use on this than on the karambit style versions, I think. But it's the same experience, really. Press fit pocket clip there, pull it out of the pocket, push it out, you're ready to go. If you're wanting to use this in a more straightforward manner, as in blade pointing this way as opposed to down underneath your hand, pull it out of the pocket, rearrange it, and then push it out with your thumb, and you're ready to go. Again, as an EDC proposition, the nice thing about this is it doesn't fold towards your fingers as you're going to close it. So I like that extra degree of passive safety there. Just one less thing to think about going wrong, which is cool. Now, the cool thing about these Provokes is, which is a Joe Caswell design, hadn't mentioned that yet. They showcase a side of CRKT that's unafraid to do like weird stuff. And this next one is one of the weirder ones, but still cool ones. The Snap Lock, designed by Ed Van Hoy. New black version of it is available now. So rather than the kind of like blasted satin finish that the standard version has, we have a black titanium nitride coating here, which does add significantly to the cost on this. This is going to be about $80, which is a fair bit more than the non-black version. So you'll have to decide if that is worth it to you. The standard version is still available if this knife interests you. I do like, however, how these copper-colored accents work against the black. That is a nice touch. Steel here is quite basic, 420 J2, but this thing's all about the opening and closing experience, essentially. In use, yes, it does work, but here's how we do this. See if I can get it right. It can open and close one-handed. It is going to take some getting used to. In fact, that probably looks really awkward on camera, and so I apologize. But it essentially, yeah, you move this lever right here and fold the knife sideways like so. And opening is exactly the opposite. Push the lever down and flip it open. So in terms of the experience, it is not as smooth and fluid as, you know, a conventional opener. You probably get it a little more, you know, fluid looking than I'm getting here on camera. That's just the nature of the fact that I don't use one of these day to day. But it's more about the uniqueness of the mechanism, the cool factor going on. And in use, it actually does feel like it would work. You've even got a little bit of a finger guard there and this cool Wharncliffe profile. So there you go. Check it out. The Snap Lock, available in the new black licorice variety, or the less expensive standard version is still available if you're interested in that. Next up, we've got the sort of a return of a classic Michael Walker design to the CRKT lineup. This is the Walker Blade Lock folder. Blade Lock is sort of a, I'm not a fan of the name, because every lock is a blade lock, but this is the only one true blade lock. It's the thumb stud right here that operates the lock. Can you see how that's going? Pushing in and out like so. Now, older versions of this knife that existed were actually assisted opening, so that essentially they were almost even automatic style. As soon as you would push down on the thumb stud, the action would complete. But on this, this is a fully manual knife. So push down on the thumb stud and rotate the blade open. You can get it to flick a little faster, but it's a little harder to do so because you're actually having to push in an opposing motion or an opposing direction as you would normally to flick it open. That's kind of how you have to do it there. Push down and then swing out with your thumb. Once you get that, it does get a little more easy to think of, but definitely opens differently than a standard thumb stud style knife. But it is another cool mechanism, and another one that actually keeps your fingers out of the blade path as you're closing the blade, which is always a cool thing. We've got this modified Wharncliffe shape on this particular version here. 3-inch blade, 14C28N steel, which is a step up from the affordable versions of this knife that used to exist for sure. Price on this one, these are coming in about $85 right now. G10 for the handles, two-tone, really cool pivot area right here. We've got a standard pocket clip for right side carry, and another really cool conversation piece. Now you may be looking at this area right here and saying, hey, is it a front flipper? No, it is not. The blade lock actually locks the blade closed until you push the thumb stud down and go to open it. So if you are not a fan of blades that can come open accidentally, if you throw it in a purse or bag or that sort of thing, if you want that extra bit of security when it's kind of free floating, this gives you a little bit of that. All right, next up we have the Bamboozled, new versions of this from Kenny Onion, the scion of the great Ken Onion. These are coming in about $68. We have a new drop point version and a new Tonto bladed version right now. 3.34 inches on the blade length, D2 steel, G10 inlays on a stainless steel bolster right there. Let me check out this this drop point, because I'm a drop point guy. I like a good drop point. These are assisted opening knives, so very easy to get out and open quickly when you want it to be. Just move that flipper tab and then the spring will take over. Blade is very useful, thin, full flat grind, just a hint of a drop point there at the end, making it very useful. Repeating myself a little bit, aren't I? If you'd like something a little more aggressive, the Tonto is your friend there. Definitely a more acute tip, still a very useful geometry, however. It's gonna slice quite nicely. We've got a deep carry clip on the right side. We've got a liner lock holding things secure. And another knife that is, you know, full-size knife, but not a lot of real estate is demanded of your pocket. Gonna work quite well. Next up, speaking of Ken Onion, we have some Ken Onion. We have new premium versions of the Homefront Compact. So these have a smaller blade than the original Homefront. We're about 2.9 inches here, and we've got S35 VN steel. So these are gonna be some of the more premium options in the CRKT's lineup. In the Homefront lineup as well. 135 for the stonewashed or black coated finish available. The handles themselves, we've got black aluminum bolsters and black G10 for the main grip areas here. And they do indeed offer a significant amount of grip. This is not a knife that's likely to escape your grasp when you're using it. Deep carry pocket clip, right side only. We've got a liner lock. We've got ball bearings in the pivot for this bad boy. The flipping action works great. Blade shape, you got plenty of belly with this type of drop point and a relatively inline point for the tip. Gonna make it easy for drilling and piercing like so, and you still have plenty of sliceability thanks to all that belly. Saber height flat grind here. I especially like this stonewash, but that's me. So that particular knife is made in Taiwan, actually, as is this version of the Q right here, a Richard Rogers design. Price on this is about $195. S35 VN, 2.95 inches on this one. Full flat grind with a fuller on each side, which gives you a couple of different opening methods. You've got the flipper tab for one thing, and that second opening method comes from the fuller itself. You can do the reverse flick like that, which is a lot of fun. Also facilitates two-handed opening quite nicely, or pinch and roll type opening, as you can see right there. Black finish on the handle, black titanium for the handles, and that actually explains a bit of the price difference between that and the Homefront we just looked at. No titanium on this Homefront. You've got it on the Q right here, and then Jade G10 inlays front and back on this bad boy as well. Action here, we've got an inset liner lock for one thing, and ball bearings in the pivot, so you've got that liner lock style detent, giving you that nice crisp action when you go to open. Very sleek profile. A few different versions of this are already available if you don't like this kind of black and jade version. There is a bead blasted titanium version that comes with a black G10 inlay. That's also $195. That comes with a satin blade as well. For $225, you can actually get a MagnaCut blade on this one. And that is the larger version, 3.31 inches on that knife, as opposed to the sub 3-inch version right here. And that one comes with carbon fiber inlays as well. Next up, we have a new version of the Richard Rogers designed CEO, which is a knife that kind of kickstarted a whole lot of imitators to this kind of vibe when it was originally released. This is one of the flipper variants, coming in at $60 right now. Aus 8 blade, 3.35 inches long, very narrow, straight backed profile, and injection molded brown desert tan handles on this. We'll call it desert tan. It's a bit more evocative than brown. On the back, you've got the flat pommel with a deep carry pocket clip mounted there. Lets you tail stand, and it's kind of inspired by classic doctor's knives that they would use to crush pills into powder to dose them out. You're probably not going to be doing that with this knife, but that's where the inspiration comes from anyway. Very narrow profile in the pocket, barely takes up, well, some pocket pens take up more space than this knife does, but it's got a nice subtle clip like some pocket pens as well. Flipping action with ball bearings works great. Liner lock, not the easiest to access, but that's in service of the very, very compact frame overall. As you can see, it's still not a problem even for fat fingers like mine. And then flip it out when you're ready to cut. Next up, another Richard Rogers folder. This is the Viento, and this is priced at about $68 right now. Really cool upswept profile to this modified sheep's foot blade. And you can't usually say upswept sheep's foot, but in this case you can. 3¼ inches on the length, D2 steel, hollow grind on the D2 steel. It kind of gives it a bit of a straight razor type of vibe because of that hollow grind when you combine it with this shape overall. Edge itself is nice and sharp. We got full length fullers on either side. We've got a crowned spine at the top. Some really nice detailed touches for this price point. Stainless steel bolsters, black G10 inlays for the handle, right side pocket clip, and a liner lock. Let's check out the flipping action. That works nicely. Plenty of handle length there for a larger grip if you need to. Let's try using the fullers for a reverse flick. That works real nicely. The pinch and roll works great. The only thing that you can't really see here, just by the way I'm holding it, is the back spacer here can actually move out towards the back to add or to reveal a lanyard hole, which is something that's nice for folks who like a lanyard hole. You gotta have it. You wanna put your lanyard or your fob on there. But for folks who don't use it, maybe they like a cleaner look. This will support both styles of carry with that feature. All right, 2 more knives and then an accessory. The last 2 knives are some fixed blades. We have got the HZ4 from James Williams, which is a smaller version of the HZ6. 4¾ inch blade here. SK5 high carbon steel, tough stuff for sure with that trailing point. Very, very acute tip. And then the G10 handles here, essentially made to be as grippy as possible is the mission for here. These large cutouts here on the side, large ridges, provide a ton of extra surface area that are just gonna lock in to the folds of your finger or your gloves if you're wearing those. For me, I get all 4 of these fingers on here, no problem. If I were wearing gloves, I might be, depending on how thick they were, might be a little more cramped for space, but as in my ungloved mitts, they are perfectly sized for me. But definitely a self-defense oriented knife. Wouldn't be a terrible impromptu food prep knife though, if I do say so myself. You got plenty of belly there for slicing. Not that you're probably gonna do that a lot, but hey. Kydex sheath for retention right here, snaps in quite nicely as you can see. The sheath itself comes with this low profile J-style clip, which you can hook onto there. It's gonna make it easy to carry inside a waistband for sure, for quick and easy and subtle access. But thanks to the hole and slot pattern on the sheath here, that's gonna mean pretty much any aftermarket belt attachment system that is out there could be made to work on this, whether it's Spyderco's G-clip, Blade Tech's Tech Lock, Civivi's T-clip, the Mummert titanium clips, Ulti clips. Need I go on?
It'll clip.
It'll clip. Price on that one is $92. Not too bad for a very effective self-defense fixed blade like that. If you'd prefer a USA-made fixed blade, we have another USA-made CRKT here. This is the Russ Kalmer designed Kasilof, made for CRKT by Tops Knives. Price on this is about $250, and construction follows the typical Tops playbook here. We've got micarta handles, red liners, and 1095 steel here for reliable toughness. It's a slim carry overall, as you can see. You've got flat handle scales with a pinch point here in the micarta, which works nicely for pinching, as you might expect, but it still works pretty decently, maybe less so in a hammer grip like so, but a saber grip, moving your thumb up towards the spine there, locks in pretty nicely. About 3.9 inches on the blade length, kind of narrow tapering bird and trout style profile. They are calling it a Skinner blade, so I think they are leaning into that bird and trout styling, which is gonna work well, but it's a great narrow, agile blade as well. And again, not too bad for food prep, if I do say so myself. Holes in the handle, make sure to keep it clean if you're prepping food with it, of course. Comes with a leather sheath, just wide enough for it to work, which means you've got a very narrow profile to it overall, and that's gonna make it very easy to find a place for it on your belt, especially if you happen to carry a bunch of stuff on your belt day to day. There you go. Last but not least, we've got an accessory for today, the Big Boy driver tool designed by Joe Wu. It is similar to the other driver tools they've released so far, but it's made of aluminum rather than brass, and it has a big, fatter thumb or finger turning section here with some nice knurling on there, meaning you can get a little more torque than some other driver tools on the market out there. Comes with a ball bearing there at the back to keep things nice and free flowing. And it even comes with a Weehaw bit adapter, changing it from the standard 1/4 inch bit here to those 4mm micro bits, which are also quite popular. Comes with that right out of the box. And these, I think, normally to get just one of these is like $5 or $6 or something, I think, for a good Weehaw one like this. This whole package is coming in at $20. When you throw that Weehaw thing there in for that price, I think it's a pretty decent bargain for sure. There you go. Check it out. That's all we have for right now. There's a few more items we weren't able to get in onto the table today. Keep an eye out for those and all of this at the links below in the CRKT section on KnifeCenter.com. Let us know what you thought of the knives here for the first big drop of 2025. Let us know in the comments, and to get your hands on them, check out those links as mentioned. While you're there, in addition to our long-running knife rewards program, we've recently added a Sezzle payment option. If you want to break up some of these more expensive knives into some more manageable payment chunks, you can do that using that. That's all for now. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we are signing off. See you next time.